Oh, that's
Yeah.
funny.
All right. So that being said, let's get into our first topic. All about some K-9 loving. All right. So an Ohio police officer is desperately fighting to keep his K-9 partner. This takes place in Shaker Heights, where an officer, Chad Hagan, is desperately fighting to keep his partner Igor. So it's by the story, it seems that he's kind of had a couple run-ins with his chief, but most importantly, he's got a good relationship with his workplace. The reason he's leaving is because he wants to live closer to home. It's a little less than an hour commute to work, and he's trying to find a place closer to home. And his chief at the time when he first brought this to him, like, hey, I got to find somewhere closer. Chief encouraged it, said that, yeah, no, you got to do what's best for your family, and I totally respect it. But at the same time, kind of fell by the wayside because he needed to find a job opening closer to him.
Yeah.
He finally did when he gets closer to now. It's like, all right, I got to start getting ready to leave. They were going to be parting ways, and the chief started to bring it to his attention that we're going to be keeping the dog. So we need to get him used to new officers. We're going to start separating him from him. And that became alarmist. He became upset and gave his 2 weeks earlier, came in, submitted his resignation that he was leaving. Because of that triggered it. That was going into Thanksgiving. So just before the holiday, they had taken the dog. Now, what's weird is the dog is currently at a facility here in Parma, that like a caretaking facility. So it's not being used as a utility for the city like the city's trying to purport it to be. Now, Officer Hagan has offered the city $10,000 to take this dog in exchange for, we understand it's property. And these dogs, let's give you some perspective, they cost about $21,000. But then the city continues to take care of it by feeding it and all of its grooming, all of its medical bills, everything is taken care of by the city. And so the story has taken national headlines.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is, like, of course you have a heart, this dog, to get the most out of it. So the law side of me, dogs, as much as we love them as other people and other members of our family, they are, in the eyes of the law, considered property, just like your purse or your car.
Yep.
That being said, we can't ignore the nuance of the fact that it is better or different, or
there's an emotional aspect to it that I think a lot of people really do just can sympathize with in such a manner. And this is also just one of the very weird sections of the law where a living thing is also property, but also has emotion and sometimes has agency, but also is an officer of the law. It's a real weird diagram.
So let's agree. This dog offers a utility.
Yep.
And is a tool for the department. That being said, to maximize its utility and for it to give the greatest benefit to the department, it needs to create that special bond with one of the officers. Like,
yep.
It's a natural way of maximizing the potential of this utility you have.
Yep. Yeah.
But a symptom of that is not only are you going to be crushing the dog, but you're going to be crushing its caretaker when it comes to separation. Now, the chief tried pushing a deal where if you stay for 2 more years, the dog has about 4 to 5 more years at least before retirement, because it's still in good shape and young enough to stay on the force. That being said, the chief said we'd consider early retirement if you stayed for 2 more years. Hence, look, you're going to be creating a void in my department too. Now I got to fill you and a dog. Yeah. Like, this is a huge void. If you could give me 2 years to prepare to fit, like, as somebody that manages an office and a whole crew of people, I could see, like, listen, you scratch my back, we'll cut it early. But this dog, 6 years old, already on the force for 5, you're halfway. So I get he's offering 10 grand, saying, hey, this is about half of the dog's left, and this is about half of the dog's cost. So I get that. At the same time, though, that's not the medical bills, the feeding, all of that has led to this point. And it is, so talking in the lens of Shaker Heights, this is all of our money. We pay taxes. We put it in a pool to take care of us.
Yep.
And I got to ask you, how do you feel as a taxpayer? Because I want to get to another case that happened in Bedford Heights in July. So, and that wrapped up in August. That being said, this is starting to be a trend. And as the internet grows, because now, like I said, this is a national story. The wife's all over the Today Show, and they're doing their tour across the media, trying to do their powwow parade. And that all being said, you got to ask yourself, we as the taxpayers, are we wanting or willing to create a trend where one person in our city gets a $30,000 gift from all of us? That's what it is.
Yeah.
I got a dog. That dog was $2,500. I had to pay for it. You didn't buy it for me.
Yeah.
You love my puppy. You didn't buy it for me. So that's life. You didn't buy me my car either.
Yep.
So ask yourself, do we create a trend where we all buy one person in our community every couple of years? And now as the police forces get larger, like we're talking about Shaker, Garfield's got one, Cleveland's probably got 4 or 5. So how many of these $40,000 gifts are you looking to give away? Because you're going to create a precedent where his heart couldn't be broken. My heart couldn't be broken. And so at some point you're going to go, is this a right financial choice? I think another thing is, we hired Will as our accountant at the court. Judge looked at him and goes, this is yours. And, normally this is not an accountant who does this job, but we want to be able to give you more responsibility, and we're going to pay you. We're going to compensate you more for that. But I want a commitment that you're going to be here till at least the end of my term. Will you be here for 7 years? Okay. If that's like a contingency upon your hiring, like, is it in writing? No. So is it going to be more difficult to sue you? Yes, but they still could. They still could. Will they win? I don't know. How good's their attorney? Am I their attorney? I don't know. But that being said, I think if you create a precedent, one of the things is you need to contractually agree that you're going to be here for at least the next 10 years. If you end up staying and we get another 1 or 2 out of him as just like a tired dog that keeps company at the force, we're not saying you got to leave after 10 years, but that you're not allowed to leave. Another thing is, if you're going from one police force to another police force, then maybe, because guess what? I would make an argument this dog should, if it's healthy and still has the ability to continue, it's definitely shouldn't be sitting at home chewing on chew toys while you're still at work. You should try to compel the next police department to find utility in Igor and go, hey, the dog's worth 21. I'm willing to fetch up 10. You pitch in 10. That way we pay for the total cost of at least the original cost of the dog. And the only cost to Shaker Heights is the cost in care through the time of having him. And we'll continue the cost of care now that we got him. But you need to compel the new police force to get on board too, because they're going to be benefiting from a new utility.
Yeah, that was the one thing that wasn't brought up in the story at all. I'm surprised that wasn't even a solution or an option. I don't know if there's some weird bureaucracy, red tape, where you can't, like the K-9 that starts at the facility either dies or retires. There's no moving it on to other police forces, because that would seem like the next logical step. I don't think every single police force is equipped to have a K-9, or even has a K-9 in the budget, has the infrastructure to be able to deal with one. There's also there's more than just having a dog as to sniff around places. There's a whole process to this that the actual station force needs to actually be prepared for, to have it. And to introduce that on a new thing, you either have to be such a hell of a police officer that there's no way they can deny that, or you're already going to have that coming in, and this would seem like a logical step. But it seems like from the story, he's moving to a bit more of a, we'll call it a safe area, an easier area to do policing duties at. And it just, this is another one. Just, it really just tugs your heartstrings. Yeah. You can picture it in your head. You with your own pet at home, your children, all sorts of different things. Like, you spend time, you build a relationship, and now I can't move on. I wonder also, as I was reading the story, what was this thought about before he moved? Was this a discussion prior to this? Because it seemed like in the framing of that article that he just kind of moved. He was ready to go, and then just assumed the dog would go with him. All right, buddy, let's get in the car. Like, oh, hey, sorry.
That's what I'm thinking. Yep. Because here's what the articles I read acknowledge. He did approach the chief that, hey, I'm going to start looking for a new place to go. not because I don't like this place, but because I need to get closer to home.
Mhm.
That would come up then. So why is this being hashed out months later when you finally pull the plug?
Yep.
So that makes me either assume, as you had presented, that never came up, either conscious by the chief or conscious by this officer, or just neglected by both because they're both operating off of assumptions.
Yeah.
That being said, there's no excuse. This didn't just so this whole shock of like it came out of nowhere. It should be on you to have this dialogue ahead
especially
of
with the media story that's going around this, because this isn't just a local newspaper article. They're now doing interviews. They're doing PR to really essentially force the police force to go, all right, we'll take the 10 grand, have the dog. I'm tired of dealing with this, because this is just distracting from all the other things we need to do.
Okay, so let's balance this with another case. So this is the current one that's being hashed out.
All right.
National story, petitions, peaceful protests that cousins are organizing. The thing's getting crazy. That being said, this just occurred last July here in Bedford Heights.
Okay.
So the dog was, seized and taken to the department July 23rd. And returned back to the officer after protest and donations, was returned to the officer August 3rd. So just after about like a week and a half, 2 weeks, again, they created a whole bunch of media stir. They received thousands in donations. Was it enough to get the 20,000? But again, 21 isn't the number. It's 21 plus the 30.
Yeah,
the
there's
15
assumed
we
cost.
Already invested.
Now I could argue on some of that. That's just the cost of doing business. Like healthcare, like you're not going to take care of the dog. You're just not going to feed the dog. There's the buying of the dog and training of the dog. You don't get those back.
But this comes back to dogs, right? This is our red rocket for dogs, because the reality is we don't have this dialogue about police horses, right? We don't.
No, we don't.
Why? Someone's taking care of it.
Yeah.
Someone's changing the shoes and maintaining it in the stable.
And probably has a relationship with it too.
We don't have this intimate, sensual relationship with them. That being said, back to the story. So the guy gets the dog returned shortly after raising all this money and filing a lawsuit against the city. But the police department did not specify the reason behind the sudden change of plans. Weird. Now, I just want to consider a statement, part of the statement by Chief Mike Morata. He says, it's important for the community to understand what the city provides and expects regarding the care of its police dog. The city pays for all expenses associated with the dog. That includes food, veterinary-related expenses, collars, leashes, etc. It pays for the biweekly training of the dog and pays the officer 8 hours of pay for the training, even though the training routinely lasts less than a full day. If the officer goes on vacation, the city pays for the boarding of the dog. The only expectation of the officer while caring for the dog at home is for him to do the same types of things that you and I would do for our dogs. Feed them and let them out in a fenced yard, or otherwise take them for a walk to do their business. Therefore, Officer Ketzel in Bedford Heights enjoyed the benefits of a loving dog, an obedient dog, without any of the usual expenses associated with that dog. So, I mean, here's the big question. And for those that are emotionally torn on this, Brian, both of you, I want to get your response. How does this change things when I tweak the facts just a little bit and say it wasn't that they were moving on or retiring, it was that they were fired, that they were terminated?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah,
so if that is an operative fact that changes the whole result, then it goes to show it's not tied to the rightness of, the loving of the officer and the dog. I hate to be crass, but that's the fact. Yep. If the guy was fired and it changes any nuance to this, it's because you're tied to your heart and not your brain. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I do have one counterpoint on this as well. And to have good utility for this dog, you want this dog to be, it's working for the state, so you want it to do exactly what it's told when it's told, and not be depressed and just be essentially having a good time doing it. You got to spend that time and build that relationship with an officer or officers. So I'll get to my second point. I'll get to my second point here next.
Diversify so that they can freaking play you like a sad little fiddle.
Yeah. And I don't think and in the firing situation, it's not the dog's fault. The officer was fired. And unless there's some very super duper specific scenario, which would again come down to lack of training, lack of, utility with the officer, you don't have the bond, there's all sorts of different things that can
Puts
come to
his
that.
knee on a crackhead too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the result? I'm asking.
That's still the same thing. That's not the dog's fault at all.
And does he go with him?
The dog probably at that point probably shouldn't.
Chugga-bugga.
Yeah. So that's boy.
Okay. So my wrapping thoughts are this. If there's a nuance to why the person's leaving and that changes the perspective, to me, that tells me that this isn't tied to anything besides our emotions. The dog is a tool, a utility, and something that benefits the department. So the thing that for me parses apart where I would come out on this, if you're bringing a new benefit to that department, then that new police department should benefit you and assist.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're going to say, no, we don't, it's not our dog, we don't want the dog, and it's just going to be sitting at home, then look at what you're doing to a totally capable dog that has a full life of being utilized. It's just going to sit at home. And again, I'm not saying my dog, that's just a dachshund that's just going to sit at home, is living a terrible life, but you're taking away what the dog was bred for and focused on its entire existence. To me, my most important piece to my position is the precedent it sets. This is thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. And there are too many officers that are partners with K-9s for us to be giving at least $40,000 gift to every one of these officers. When it's my money being allocated and spread across, then I don't want to be one to foot these bills. Or I am footing the bill. I don't want it to be. Why am I footing the bill now for Shaker? To enjoy my utility. That being said, I think it's a bad precedent. I feel for this person, but maybe next time consider, not making the heart, growing to the heart of a dog that's an hour away, or be willing to make the compromise for 2 more years because seeing what you're getting out of the whole thing. If this thing means, let's just say it's your daughter or the thing that matters to you the most. They said you got to do this thing for 2 more years to keep them. How much do you love them? How much do you love them? That's gas money. Pay the gas. Pay the time. You know what? I like having a studio. I don't like getting yelled at my job. But guess what? I do the one for the other. How bad do you want it? That's my point.
Yeah, I'm starting to mirror a little more of your points here. There absolutely is an emotional part to this that I think needs to be factored, but how much? Maybe a little bit more than maybe you think, but it's part of it. You move the dog away from the particular scenario, and it's no one/nothing deals with high contrast of qualities of life well. No, but so you're working. The dog has got a routine. It's doing things every day, and then all of a sudden, well, just now not doing anything. I don't know if the dog's going to too terribly be happy. I don't think, as a pet owner yourself, here's your dog like sitting on the couch all day, every day with no change.
No.
I'm sure it likes sitting on the couch sometimes, but definitely likes going outside, likes chasing whatever the hell your dog chased, but all sorts of different things that factors into it. And I think the police department seem to be a lot smarter about this, because this is just, we're just sitting on landmines that are eventually just going to be hit every single time an officer sees a job in a more attractive location what they're currently at. So you need to diversify this dog with these several different officers. It's not just one. It's, Billy and Jerry and Jane all get a week with the dog or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a police management expert, but it would seem to me you avoid this pretty quickly. It's like, all right, well, sorry, Billy, you're going over to Parma. You're having a good time. Hey, I understand. Hey, dog's going to stay with Jane and Jerry here while we get someone else trained in for him. And that's probably the better way to see this, because I agree with you on the precedent. We're just going to see this more and more. So it's too easy of a PR thing. The news cycle loves these types of stories. It's too easy to share on Facebook. It's like, can you believe this? He even offered to pay for it without really understanding
Half
the full.
of it.
And the chief just looks awful coming out against this too. Imagine trying to defend he's a good dog. He's been a great dog. The officer's been a good guy too. I tried to negotiate with him and all that, but there's this. That's just going to fall on deaf ears. That's not going to captivate the audience quite like hey, we want oh, we want this dog here. Now, you would probably be, if I was the chief, part of it's a money thing, part of it's a utility thing, and you got to replace it. But if money thing is like half of it, like, well, hey, we said we'd give him, if he took like $35K for it, we probably do it, because I think that covers X, Y, and Z, the cost of the dog and all that. And, we talked to the other department. The department said they didn't really want to deal with the dog. That probably gets you a lot farther. That takes support, or that takes support away from removing this dog from you and just giving the bad PR. And now well, here's the hurdle because X, Y, and Z. I'm just, this is bureaucracy in play. There's faceless, nameless. They're not voted in. I can't change it. And I'm not going to give the guys names. They're private citizen, whatever. That helps. There's every angle here just seems to suck on this one. That's what I'm really talking myself into on this. But it's yeah. That would be that's probably my thoughts.
It's a tough situation.
It's a tough one.
But Brian, what are your rapid thoughts?
I think David said it pretty well. Like it's a tough subject, and there could be an alternative where they maybe offer a clause where you pay enough money, you get the dog. If everyone agrees that this is a good amount of money, to pay back the taxes and all the other expenses that go with it. As far as the time, I think that's also a good buyout situation. If you work two more years, you get the dog. But yeah, I think there's definitely a utility part of it that should heavily influence the final decision.
Especially needs to remove the emotion.
Right.
I think that's really the utility part, is just remove the emotion. This is the facts of, like, this is just how this operates in a society.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Rethink Tank Live. Join us every Tuesday at 7 p.m. streaming across the platforms on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok. We do our best to promote user engagement, and we want you involved. So be sure to bring your perspective live so we can get you in the dialogue. See you then.